Hi, it's Eric here with the ADCAST. Before you listen to episode 2, make sure you go back and listen to episode 1 of my interview with Mr. Chad Israel, the former communications director for the presidential candidate, Tom Steyer. This is the ADCAST.
You're listening to the ADCAST.
This is the ADCAST. All right, guys, it's Eric here with the ADCAST. 3 things that you need anytime you're doing a campaign: budget, media, and message.
It's very important.
You're listening to the ADCAST.
All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 2 of the ADCAST. I am here with the world famous Chad Israel. What an interesting career, Chad. An interesting career. Starting out in the early 90s, working in the .coms, doing some work for Alicia Keys when no one knew exactly who she was, being on the early team to kind of help her to become a big artist, working in the early stages of social media and the MySpace page. There's some folks who probably won't even know what it's like to have a MySpace page, that are probably hearing this. And we talked about strategy, but I want you to kind of tell folks exactly who you are and what you've done. So give them your own bio, if you will, for me, Chad.
Quick 50,000 elevator sort of pitch. Started in social media when it began, and it was happenstance. Needed to cast a reality TV show, and MySpace was a platform at the time that provided a more economically viable way to do it than hiring a traditional casting agency. Worked with tremendous success because that started to spiral and snowball. My career in social media, again, it really started back in 2003. Landed with a couple of big agencies, working with major clients like Chick-fil-A, Microsoft, Toyota, Lexus. From a strategy foundational standpoint, just helping them understand social media, create their initial channels, build those early audiences. Again, sort of another piece. Every time we talk, I'll have a couple other jewels for you. So
I love it.
Very familiar with the bot world because that's how initially we grew social media. Because again, going back into just the regulations and guidelines at the time, MySpace required you and YouTube required you to be a real person. But there was no way to check and make sure that this Google account or Yahoo account or Hotmail account, you just named the email address and we could create.
Yeah.
You were recognized as a real person on these platforms. So back then, brands used to get flagged for spamming their message a lot.
Wow.
So much so you couldn't put out a brand video without getting a couple flags, and then your account would get suspended, even on Twitter. So what we had to do is create friendly profiles to push brand messages. And then when it would be pushed from a person, there was no way for someone to flag it because it was peer-to-peer versus brand-peer. So it was a way that we were able to kind of work around the regulations on these platforms. They knew it was happening. Again, when you see a spike of 10,000 new profiles coming from one IP address, it doesn't take a genius to know what's going on. We created over 30,000 fake profiles in 2 years,
Wow.
And that's what the team was tasked to do. The major brands utilized those profiles. We would build them at their request because some brands with conservative message wanted to control what people and their advocates were saying about them on social media. And it got, again, full disclosure, it got Chick-fil-A in trouble back in 2012, 2013, when they have a little LGBTQ controversy. And they started to use those fake profiles to defend the brand. And there was an investigative journalist who just scratched the surface.
Get out of town.
In LA, and I'm seeing Malcolm, the guy I created, like just squeaky clean. Anyone's gonna take him to anything.
Wow.
Dude never did, but he wasn't real. But he was the main advocate defending them in a moment of crisis. So again, from that standpoint, being able to take a lot of notes from just seeing again some of the things I might have had a part in creating, the mess when it comes to social. And now how do we get ourselves out of it? And that's where, again, I find myself today, still working with some brands, working on political campaigns. I just like to lend my strategy brain out for those who need it.
In the tail end of episode 1, we were talking about different campaigns and kind of how we were impressed with the other campaigns. And I was at an event in Las Vegas, and one of the guys that I heard speak was Trump's digital director, someone who would be like your counterpart. His name was Brad Parscale. And we got to ask questions, and we'd ask him like, hey, what is your favorite medium and why? He said Facebook. He said at some point, I think Hillary Clinton was running 66,000 Facebook ads when she ran, and they ran 6.7 million ads when they ran. And they believed in the power of Facebook. And what I know now, and I came from a radio and a television world, but then like you see the power of the social media where you get on and you tell it what books you read, what you like, how you like things, and you're almost self-reporting yourself, and you're making it easier for people to target you, right? And whereas like Google's looking at your search history or your intent to be able to serve you an ad. So if I look at the two and I say like, okay, what's more powerful? Because I'm not going to spend 45 minutes on search, but I'll spend 40 minutes in bite-sized pieces on social media. Do you know what I mean? So let's talk about like how powerful social media is and how it can influence people in giving your message, and also kind of help change people's thoughts in their minds. Is it powerful?
So you've got a lot of things to unpack on that. It's a great question with a lot of different layers to it. And I think one way to kind of take a look at it from a standpoint of understanding how these algorithms are trying to work. And then also understanding there was a movie a couple years ago about Alan Turing, the Turing machine that was able to help win the war against the Nazis because it was the first computer that was created that broke German code. And the interesting thing about that computer, it could do a lot, but until you actually fed it information and told it what to start to look for and told it what to build, it didn't know what to do. Wow. Facebook, Google works the same way. Again, I'm going to give you inside the beast. So, when I was at a large corporation, Facebook came, and we were about to do a major ad buy. The major ad buy was happening essentially because we had a board member from Facebook that was on the company and kept on putting pressure on the CEO because we weren't investing money in Facebook ads. The moment that got turned on, we had $3 million to test. Facebook started working directly with their paid team. The one thing that they wanted to get, and the company I was with at the time had a valuable amount of user information and user data from the travel industry. Facebook, I just didn't understand why they wanted that data so much, why they needed that. And again, they don't have everything. So take that into consideration and let that sit in. They've still got gaps when it comes to their algorithm. So they're trying to predict buyer intent. So just as a way to think about this, again, coming from the car rental industry, this was an example that we had. Mm-hmm. When someone through Facebook would either search for an airline or hotel, maybe even book one of those two, we would then get a notification this user has a high buyer intent that they're probably going to need to rent a car. So then that went into an algorithm that activated our paid that then could serve an ad to those folks because we're guessing if you booked a hotel and you booked a flight, you're probably going to need to rent a car. It's pretty simple. But again, that user data, for them to understand buyer behavior, they really need to track everything. So in order to track everything, they need your IP address. They need your user ID. So once data gets transferred, and again, private data from a corporation then being given to a company like Facebook, they're sitting there, they're going to help you with your issue. Yeah. But now they're going to use that data to go to Delta to sell them more, go to Marriott to sell them. So they use that data to their benefit. So in this world of, to your example, when Hillary's team thought they were doing a great job with their 16,000 ads.
66,000.
66,000. So I remember that moment, that time when the campaigns were having those discussions with Facebook. There was an article that I read that Facebook that they offered to Trump we'll let our team come in and integrate with your marketing team, and we'll uplift your campaign. Hillary's campaign said, no, thanks. We can handle it all on our own. And Trump's campaign with Brett said, we don't know what we're doing. We'll take all the help we can get. So at that point, they just turned everything over to Facebook and let Facebook then do what best practices told them to do.
Wow.
And that's, to your point, those volumes of numbers. And again, it's like that Labrador just rubbing over to give you the belly. Facebook, because that information and that user data was so valuable to them, they were able to give the Trump campaign tremendous discounts when it came to that ad revenue or to the cost of those ads. So again, there was almost, let's call it the quid pro quo when it came to that exchange of data and information. And again, that data and information is going to feed, again, those companies like Cambridge Analytica. So let's take a little step back to understand what Cambridge Analytica was. Mm-hmm. And it's a data company that was powering its information from another company called Crimson Hexagon. Crimson Hexagon was a social media analytic tool, one of the most powerful, because they had fire hose access to Twitter and Facebook and some of the other relevant social media platforms. So all these tools have to pay Facebook and Twitter for their data. You pay a monthly fee to get that information. And based on that check that you cut to them, and that's where these platforms really make a lot of their money, having their data fully accessed and open to these sort of dashboard or analytic companies, if you will. So they are able to then take this information, parse it, utilize it in a lot of different ways that then go outside of the terms and rules, regulations of those platforms.
Got it.
And you're taking that data here, putting it over here. Well, while it's over here, you don't have to play by these Facebook rules.
Because you're in another platform. You're operating somewhere else.
Exactly. You're operating somewhere else. And that's where, again, the Cambridge Analytica group were tapped into Crimson Hexagon and then just accessing this data in real time. And what you see are all these bubbles. You see crisis management, you see arguments, you see discourse, and you start to see what discourse is creating the most attraction or attention. Oh, well, then this is also tied to, again, the tool itself, the listening tool, is tied to the teams that are in St. Petersburg and wherever else, the Russian agents had their teams situated. So you're leveraging this data that's happening in the United States in real time so they can either add more Discord, keep that conversation going that, again, is totally separate from the real thing that, it's like, it's smoke and mirrors. You just magic almost. Just keep your attention here so you're not paying attention to what this hand's doing over here.
Right.
And it was brilliant, beautiful, mastery. And they leveraged the platforms in a completely legal way because they created these laws and these rules to try and circumvent it afterwards.
Yeah.
But that's still happening right now as we speak. Cambridge Analytica was consumed by another company called Brandwatch. Not Cambridge Analytica, but Crimson Hexagon, was consumed, not really broken apart or splintered, just now its data and its capabilities are within another tool. There was consolidation within that space, but there's still some main players. And the Cambridge Analytica data and those elements were also in a lot of different other social analytic tools as well. So it wasn't just that one that the campaign was using. They opened it up. It was a patchwork. And again, to their credit, it worked.
Wow. It's so interesting to hear that. I mean, do you feel right now like television is going to lose the revenue to social media? I mean, we're in an age now where digital has already surpassed television, and it's not going away at all. Do you think now we're in that day and age where social media or new media is going to just minimize television spend, especially when it comes to political?
It's probably not until we see the generation that still has a big pocketbook shift their attention and their focus from that medium.
Good point.
There's a lot of consumers that are, older than us. We can tell you who this person is. A TV commercial can't show you who actually saw it. We can track buyer purchase from this ad all the way through a sales funnel. Then digital can't necessarily do that in TV. But when I was at Hertz, we were dormant from TV for quite some time. They literally had an OJ effect. So if you ever want to go into that in another segment, love to open up that one where, again, the one person that had the largest equity, they just had to run away from at every chance possible. And they could never escape them. But that's why they stayed out of TV for so long, because just that trust and going back into it with a campaign that could rival what they had before. So we did a Marvel commercial. We did a partnership with Marvel, and again, commercial launched, and then 2 weeks after that commercial launched, there's another $10 million that just appeared in revenue magically. So one of the VPs is making the analytics team work over the weekend to try and justify where this $10 million came. And literally, I'm sitting in his living room on a weekend with our kids playing. I'm like, dude, why are you making them work over? It's TV, stupid. Like, literally, you did a TV ad 2 weeks ago, and now there's $10 million that you can't account. That's the magic of TV. So I could still see a powerful effect that medium brings. And again, digital's dollars out, dollars back in. It's pure ROAS. The moment you cut off that digital spend is the moment you cut off that revenue that it brings. TV has a lift. Again, you see these calculations, you see like top funnel marketing, and more things that you put into that top funnel that aren't brand activation sort of messages or sale, discount, more of that middle to bottom funnel. Just put good stuff about your brand out into the universe. Just guide and drive that message and try to put as much in that top, because that will eventually trickle down to a conversion. A lot of brands do the conversation we were having earlier. They're in a vice grip when it comes to returns. So sometimes, and again, we'd even have Google reps when it comes to top funnel marketing, you might not see your return on for another 5 years. How many CEOs or how many CMOs are willing to stake a significant investment today on something that's not necessarily going to return in 5 years? They have a 2.5-year tenure. They're not going to eat their own breakfast. So again, you don't have a lot of long-term vision, and that's where I see social media sort of taking a back seat, because it's tough necessarily outside of a transaction to get an immediate return. That social post, or again, you might have the same thing as I do. When I have a positive experience with the brand, Maui Gym, great example. Got a pair of glasses with them, had them for 6 years. They broke, sent them off. I thought they would be done. They sent me back brand new pair of glasses, and it took 6 months for me to write a positive review. It took the birth of my kid and me sitting there with nothing to do. You know what? I need to write a positive review. Well, if I'm standing in a line at American Airlines and I'm 2 hours late, I'm on Twitter right then. So that moment and that rush to social media is usually a moment of urgency. That's where we get a lot of negative. And so there's a lot of emphasis on how do we convert that negative into neutral, because you can't send you can't send a survey, you can't send a marketing message to a customer that's irate with your brand. They're red when it comes to your brand.
Yeah.
They need to be at least yellow or green to receive what it is you want to say. So that's, again, one of the things I started to see when it came to sentiment and how social media really can make a big impact on perception. Whether we take care of the problem and resolve the issue or not, that's another situation. But a lot of times people just want to be heard, and they want to have an acknowledgement that their situation is being looked at.
Oh man, trust me, I totally get it. I get clients, or even in the retail field, when they have a negative review on Facebook, you'll get the CEO's attention, or the president or general manager, whoever's in the building. You get their attention pretty quick when they have some negative reviews out there about their businesses. And sometimes the people just want to be heard, and that's it.
And that's where, again, it goes back to how I can see social media as a more powerful medium, because it allows for that type of correspondence between a brand and a consumer, where you don't get that ability on traditional, on an ad. Or again, I still see the need for both, because we all like to be entertained. That's what these stocks are for. It's an infotainment. You're creating information in an entertaining way that people can consume. Yeah. But still, it's got to be entertaining, where they're just going to drown out. And there's that balance.
Take a look at Geico. I mean, Geico does it. They entertain you. They're not talking about a $50,000 bodily injury or anything else. They're talking about, the woodchucks chucking wood, and at the end they sell their message. You know what I mean?
Episode or the next Pinocchio. Like,
exactly.
By these, and I haven't gone to the Geico site to rate or vote for my favorite one, but again, that's okay. I haven't bought a Geico product but that's okay.
They're on your list.
Yes, they're on the list. If I ever need to shop, and there's that's long term. Again, you've got someone like Warren Buffett, who I think understands that long term equation better than anyone, and stays in businesses probably longer than a lot of investors because he sees that there's something in it. There's more of a value than just again looking at the quarterly sort of earnings report.
Man. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to do what I call the lightning round. I'm going to ask you about certain medias. You're just going to spit them off for me. Is that fair? All right, we're going to go to a break. This is the ADCAST.
When all eyes are on you, make it count. From audio and video to graphic design and more, Craft Creative can do it all. We don't make commercials, we craft creative. See what we can do for you at wecraftcreative.com.
All right, I want to welcome you back to the ADCAST. I am here with Mr. Chad Israel. Chad, we're blowing it up today, man. I think there's some folks that are getting some value out of this podcast today. What do you think?
Let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going. So now I want to ask you about what would you do? It's almost like I want to give you a lightning round. And in this lightning round, I want to ask you about certain mediums. I want you to kind of tell me what you think about those mediums. Just be concise as you can. And then kind of tell me why. All right? So the first medium I want to ask you about, you can tell me about this one, is radio.
Radio is a great place to get information. It's tough to still recall advertisements. About the only one, Bombas and Boll and Branch sheets. I would say those are still items that are on my list. Again, to that point of Geico, whenever I need to buy my next pair of socks, and I'm not just at Costco, Bombas is on my list. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Boll and Branch when it comes to sheets, but my wife won't let me spend that much on sheets. So yeah. But it was radio, that consistency, the repetitiveness, and then also they were everywhere. I'm Sirius XM guy, so when it comes to radio and traditional sort of marketing, during drive times, I'm probably not one to give you a good estimate on that because I've been unplugged for quite some time. But what I also enjoy is when that ad follows me. So it's going back to that 360 surround, but if you're a savvy marketer, again, you've got that ad placed on radio or, again, Sirius during a unique time, lunch, let's just say, and I'm back at my desk an hour after that, and then you're hitting me with digital ads. You're hitting me with digital content while I'm at that place. I see it as a very great piece of an overall marketing plan.
Newspaper,
great when it comes to source, and again, providing like almost a Bible, if you will, more dive in deeper to a story. But the challenge is, time. We don't always, even though we might want to get a more robust sort of perspective, we don't necessarily have time to read it and absorb it. So the other piece with newspapers, I feel like they're really missing out when it comes to bringing technology to their platforms. Really bringing augmented reality and different digital aspects to take that sort of that little sheet of paper and bring that to life and bridge it in digital. I think there's a big miss that publishers are doing there.
Okay. Billboard advertising.
Love it. And again, I still think there's a disconnect. But I've seen some brands that are able to tie their radio spot with a billboard, knowing, again, more LA and New York's good at this, more metropolitan areas where they know they've got a captured audience. And again, along those drive times, certain ways to activate, again, a message that's coming through different devices.
Okay. Direct mail.
Would never invest a dime in direct mail.
There are some local and municipal politicians. They swear by direct mail.
I also work with some realtors here in Naples. Some of them swear by the direct mail as well. But again, I'll open up. I love to look at open rates. I love to look at some of those numbers. And again, anytime you start to see still a 0.0 or a 0.00 with the actual number followed by that, I'm like, why are you wasting your time?
Yeah.
You spent $700 on doing a drop. You don't know if anyone's ever going to even see this, let alone activate on it.
Less than 1%. Much less than that.
And again, you just look at what you can do on Google or, some Facebook ads. You're probably going to be, again, for smaller marketing spends, much better served in a hyper-local market going with something like that as opposed to direct mail.
Google advertising.
Again, it's the bread and butter. Again, keep in mind, it's only 40% of all the search traffic that's out there. So, a lot of marketers think just by putting Google into the box, they're going to drive everything. You're missing out on another 60% of consumers that aren't using Google. Mm-hmm. Again, understanding look at the Google universe. I think YouTube is a highly underutilized platform when it comes to Google, when it comes to search. Video search is one of the fastest rising categories within search, and then voice search. So it's maybe taking a look at the other aspects of what Google can bring, and going beyond just again traditional desktop Google advertising.
OTT.
Sometimes I like to say there are mediums where rubber meets the road, and not. Let me get back to you. Not necessarily huge on that sort of aspect.
Broadcast television.
Super Bowl. I would do the Super Bowl. Outside of that, it's tough unless you're just going to be very repetitive. And not just the Super Bowl ad. Follow what Budweiser does. How they integrate multiple brands every year. They've sort of taken it to another level. Great example of how they introduced Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. That Game of Thrones spot launched the Bud Night. So again, very creative at how they bring some of those moments to life. And again, just this year, how they integrated with P&G and Tide, two brands you would not
totally
anything to relevancy together. But it's just that type of thinking that they utilize that highly impressionable spot to their benefit. And again, I'm a big proponent for, if you're going to drop money, go big or go home. And the Super Bowl just drives your entire marketing capabilities for the rest of the year.
Social media.
Well, drinking the Kool-Aid, speaking to the choir. Again, it's an interesting place to try and show ROI. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of different ways to peel back that ROI. And I think what social media is great at is bringing what happens in the real world to life. So I'm not sure if you're going to ask this one. I might be jumping ahead of myself. But if I had to pick my favorite, marketing vehicle, it's going to be experiential. And I think brand experience, and again, regardless whether it's digital, whether it's real world, whether it's, again, just peer-to-peer, dark social even, taking place within like text messaging and those platforms amongst friends. Experience is everything. And again, some brands that execute great experience creates word of mouth. That word of mouth is only amplified exponentially through social. And social then provides that lightning in the bottle effect, if you will. That's tougher to get with any other channel or any other medium. We used to try and do this a lot. And again, a goal used to be to, what can we do in social to get ourselves on either, again, Google Trends for the day. Mm-hmm. Back then, Charles Gibson on ABC used to do the top trend for the day. Our goal was to get on national broadcast, to get on the Jay Leno show, or get on break that digital to real, not just broadcast, but to be organic, to really tap into earned media. And that's where we find, influencer marketing sitting. That's where we see a lot of user-generated content, how you can utilize that. And then the other piece that social hasn't done yet that I think within the next few years is really going to open up is how do we start to enable blockchain and enable the ability to have digital commerce through social media activity. There's one thing I was working on at Hertz because I would have loved to had an ability for someone who, hey, I had a great experience in my car rental today. I would have loved to have a way to pay them $10 because that was more valuable than an ad I could buy. And how could I fuel that more and create a program that would encourage and invigorate that? Still thinking of ways that, again, digital commerce can really amplify activities on social. And then you start to augment what you spend in media because, again, it's not dollars necessarily just dollars out. You do create somewhat of a ROAS effect in that.
And the last one I'll ask you about is cable networks.
You know what? I think there's a lot of great things we learned from cable networks. And one thing I remember is the infomercial. Infomercial is still a powerful vehicle. And I think social digital has sort of maybe muddied the waters a little bit. But I remember those Bowflex commercials that used to last
30 minutes, yeah.
After about 15 minutes, you're really thinking about getting one, thinking about, again, it's only $30 a month.
Right.
So that type of ability and to inundate and really own, the ability to drive a message around a product awareness. I see cable still as a powerful aspect, but again, if you bridge and merge that with digital, it creates more of an interactive, aspect to it that I think, can lead to more trackable results. Mm-hmm. That 1-800 number that's unique to that DMA that you're serving, that creative to.
Chad, you have been a fantastic guest today. This was amazing. I just want to thank our guest, Chad Israel, today. Chad, what's next for you? What's on the horizon? Throw out those Twitter handles and those social handles.
I'm pretty easy to find. 2 countries, Chad Israel. Depending on the negotiations between those 2 nations affect my Google search. So sometimes I do have my knowledge graph that comes up, but other times, I get drowned out by more important things. I'm open. Really, I'm just talking to a lot of different brands, a lot of different companies, doing a lot of project work, doing a lot of consulting. Enjoying. I got 2 kids, a 5-month-old and a 3-month-old.
Oh, man, you're busy.
Busy. Adding to some. It was. Looking still being in the political space from a consultancy standpoint, and again, just open, loving to have conversations like this and having that ability to just spread the word and again help marketers market a little bit better.
Awesome, man. So I want to thank our video production company, Craft Creative, for helping be a studio sponsor for this, and thank everybody for listening to the AdCast, and thank you for giving your most valuable asset, your time, for all those people who are listening. If you feel the podcast has been a great help to you and it can be a help to others, make sure you subscribe and also share it. Tell some folks about it. You can listen to us anywhere. So, Chad, they can hear us anywhere in the world on iHeart, Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, anywhere. Anywhere they listen to their favorite podcasts. And they can also watch this on YouTube as well. To catch up on episodes, go to heyi'meric.com, or you can also text me at 843-483-1555. That's 843-483-1555. I'm an idiot for putting my number out there, aren't I?
You can always switch it. So that's
There you go, Chad. I want to thank you so much. And this has been the AdCast. If you feel this podcast has been a help to you or could be a help to others, please don't forget to subscribe. You can listen to our podcast anywhere: iHeart, Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And this episode is also going to be available on YouTube. To catch up on past episodes, go to heyi'meric.com, or you can always text me at 843-483-1555.
This podcast is brought to you by VIP Marketing and Advertising.
You don't need a marketing agency. You do deserve very important placement. VIP Marketing and Advertising is a cutting-edge strategic digital, creative, media, and marketing partner that provides services for businesses of all sizes.